Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday with Paco Lebron of ProdigyTeks, excuse me. I'm your host, Rick Smith. This is a little switch up from what we're normally used to. But you guys know this podcast is where we're here to discuss the different ways to run your IT business. Whether you're a one person shop or you have multiple employees, this is the place for you. Now, I want to introduce to you today my co host, which is a little switch to you guys, Paco Lebron. Paco, how's it going?
Doing well, Rick. Like my favorite saying to say, better than good, better than most.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Guys, as you know, we have the next thing that normally happens is we have our little service announcement, and I'm gonna let Paco, who handles this, go with that.
No problem. And it's my favorite thing to talk about, Rick, and that is TechCon Unplugged. And as everyone knows, I've been talking about it for the past several months. We're officially back September 16th to the 18th in Chicago. It's going to be at the Hilton Rosemont Chicago O'Hare. This is going to be your all-inclusive ticket minus the hotel and parking, which we'll get into in a minute, where you can get some real takeaways and bring back to your business and tap elbows and enjoy those one-to-one conversations with your peers and have some great vendors that we're going to have some conversations and resources that they're going to be providing to you. So tickets are $299, but we do have an early bird special for $199 up until April 4th. You can go ahead and get your tickets now over at techconunplugged.com. And what that means for that ticket is we will make sure to take care of your food for the entire duration. We'll take care of your dinner on Friday night and our Friday night social. That'll be at the hotel. Tentatively, there may be some switch ups there, but more to stay tuned. Then we're going to have breakfast and lunch for both Saturday and Sunday. And then our great Saturday night social where we get everybody together. And it's going to be a great time. We had a great time last year at the Five Roses Pub, where we will be back again this year. So stay tuned for more details to that and some of the great things that we have going around. And not only are we taking care of your food, we're taking care of the open bar, and we're also making sure that we bring back the ever elusive breakout sessions. This is something that's been requested of us for the last two TechCon Unplugs. We're happy to announce we are bringing those back and work out those details. So stay tuned. Look at the schedule. If you haven't purchased your ticket yet, head over to techconunplugged.com. Get that before the early bird pricing does go out April 4th. So back to you, Rick.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I hope everyone's looking forward to it. Paco and I are really excited about what's coming up with TechCon Unplugged, and just want everybody to go out and get your tickets. And we hope to see you there. You know, we do understand that there's the issue of COVID, and but we will keep you abreast as things change. Hopefully by then, by September rolls around, things should be a lot better, and we can all get together, have a good time. Hopefully, prayerfully, unmasked, having fun. But either way, we hope to see you there. Okay, well, right now today, what we're gonna do is a little different. We're gonna do a little deep dive on the man on the other side here, Paco. Everyone knows him. You know, we all know and love Paco. Some of us know his story, but some of us don't. So so this is a chance for us to get to know the guy that always gets to know everybody else. So let's just start with this, Paco. We know you. Tell us the name of your company, how it came about, and where you're at and what you're doing.
Sounds good. So again, as everyone knows, Paco Lebron, I own an MSP out of Chicago, Illinois, and that is actually the real Chicago, Illinois. There's a lot of my fellow neighbors that will say that they're from Chicago, but then they'll say that they're from Indiana, or they'll be in a further suburb that's probably about 30 to 45 minutes away from actual Chicago limits. And Chicago's a pretty big city, right? So it's not, we're not talking about downtown Chicago. There's a big area to say that you're from Chicago. So I grew up in multiple parts of Chicago, but my office is located in the downtown area of Chicago, known as the West Loop, as the extended business district. And yeah, so we've been there now going on 9 years as of next Tuesday. We will be marking 9 years in business. And that business has kind of shifted in that journey from 2013 till now. But yeah, right now we're a full managed service provider. We're providing cybersecurity services to all of our clients. And usually those are small businesses, anywhere between 10 to about 25 users, but we do have some that are a little bit bigger from there. Um, the tech name is actually pretty funny on how that came about. So there's two stories to this. There's the one that I tell everybody, and then there's the one that is really from before. So really, when I started my business, I actually was trying to figure out a name that wasn't geek or nerd. And so the next thing that came to mind was a smart person was Prodigy. And so that's what I ended up doing and calling that ProdigyTeks. The TECH was taken at the time by another company. So we ended up doing text with a KS and kind of went from there. The other side to it is for those that some people know me or some others may not. I'm a huge Marvel and Spider-Man fan. And so there was a storyline that happened back in 98 where one of the egos that he had to take on was the name Prodigy. So if you ever look at my logo, there's a portion of his mask into the logo that looks similar to that character back in that storyline. So that's kind of where the inspiration for the design came from and the name. And then it also just kind of fit when we put it placed together. So that's how the name came about. And that's where we're at.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And you and I have known each other for a while now. I guess going on, what's that, 4 or 5 years now. And I know that when we first met, you were a smaller company. And during our conversations, I've watched and heard and experienced your growth, you know, both in size as far as customers go, but also as far as employees and size. How did you get to that point? Like, how have you, the steps you've taken now to grow to where you are?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's important to kind of understand for those that may have not heard of me or have not seen my previous shows when I was back on with Jeff when he was hosting the Computer Repair Podcast on Podnuts and on my journey from there. But interesting enough, back in 2013, I actually started off as a part-time business owner. So I actually had a full-time job. I was a database manager at the time at a pharmaceutical. No, actually in 2013, I was actually a database manager at an automotive software firm in the same area that I have my MSP in the West Loop of downtown Chicago. I was there for about 7 years. Then I went ahead and moved on to another location in Evanston, which was a pharmaceutical software firm, still doing database management. But during the time of 2013 to the end of 2016, I was doing both as part-time, and I was actually running it as a computer repair shop at the time. So how I actually got that working was I was able to really piece together a solution or kind of like an infrastructure to help support not only my clients, but also give me the flexibility to work on things after hours. So what I ended up doing was getting a virtual office at a nearby Regis, which is now known as IWG. Went ahead and got an answering service to answer the phone calls during the day. I could go ahead and return those calls during the hours. And then the virtual office allowed for drop-off. So people who were dropping off their computers to get repaired, we went ahead and just fixed them up, took them back. They got them picked up, and everything was all great in between. So we kind of got creative with that over the years. We advertised at the now defunct Amazon Local, which was Amazon's way of trying to combat a lot of these deal sites like Groupon and Slick Deals and things like that. Then we kind of grew out from there and started offering residential services on a monthly basis. So instead of just kind of offering them just a run-of-the-mill free antivirus or whatever was coming with their internet service provider, we ended up offering them things like Malwarebytes. And, you know, Malwarebytes is a good friend of the show and the company over here. So we started offering Malwarebytes. Then we started giving some of those and getting some recurring revenue from there. Then we got introduced to the ever great tool known as the RMM, the remote managing monitoring solution. So at the time we partnered with Ninja, and we were working with Ninja for that and offering our clients a robust ability to not only monitor their systems, but we also were able to work with them on providing them a monitored antivirus solution, patching, et cetera, of those individual machines, but make it affordable enough for those residential clients to work and allow for good income to come in. So during that whole process, as we went there, we were a repair shopper and Ninja combination at the time. Then we started getting businesses bringing in computer repair. So that's when I started to kind of focus on moving from there. And then that was around the 2015, 2016 era, decided to move forward more on small business repairs. So started advertising to those small businesses to do repairs and things of that nature on demand. Then we started reselling certain blocks and tried to go from there. And then at the end of 2016, I actually got my entire department got laid off because they were moving their offices back overseas. So this company had 22 offices around the world, and they decided to move things over there. With the pharmaceutical industry, everything is really in Europe. So the US, for minus a few, is really after hours. So it just made sense for them to bring that third shift back over there and kind of keep everything in house. So from 2017 to probably a good 2019 or so, end of 2019, we decided to start doing more of small business support on a prepaid basis, and we started moving forward to that route. And that was my first time being a full-time employee, a business owner. So trying to figure it out, had no clue, flailing around. I mean, it was really an interesting and developmental time in my period, because there was some pretty dark times. And if you don't know, we'll post episodes in the past of when I've talked about this time in one of my old shows when we were on Podnuts. But essentially
you were
was
very
able
open
to
about that.
Yeah. That was one of those where, like, 2019 was definitely a very difficult year for sure. And it was just one of those where we just had to try and figure out, what did we want to do? I'm sorry, 2018. It was 2017 to 2018 was a very difficult year. And then 2019 had its own issues as well. But once we got to 2019, I started getting into the groove of things. I started understanding how to do stuff. Then I started doing the managed services, the monthly managed services. So I made some changes there, started growing into that piece. Things were good, coming along. But then I started kind of wanting to figure out, how do I grow? How do I figure out a bigger piece to some of the things that I wanted to separate myself from the business, because I was the business at that time. So in essence, I had a job versus running actual company is kind of what that phrase, or a iteration of how that phrase works. Come February 2020, the pandemic hit. And due to the amount of remote work that we received, I could not handle it alone. So in a matter of like 3 months, I ended up hiring 4 employees and a contractor, just to keep up with everything. And this was a back office hire that I did first, my head of office operations right now. And then I had to hire a remote tech to help out with a lot of the level 1 stuff. Then I had to hire an HR contractor, because I didn't know squat about making sure employees are okay and making sure they're right, and an employee handbook and things like that I've kind of learned from my previous jobs, and know some of these things were important. So got all those built out, hired a business development rep at the time to help with some of the leads. Didn't work out like I wanted it to. So we kind of been floating around between this 4 to 5 employee section, where we've had kind of depending on the role, some have left because of better opportunities. Some have left to enjoy retirement, as I speak for John Dubinsky, who was helping us out as our service manager at the time. So right now we're at 4. We're looking to expand probably another 2 to 3 people here in the coming year, just for specific pieces that we need. And also some alignments that we did from our staff to understand that some are better at this over here, and some really enjoy doing things on this side that I was possibly looking at hiring outside of our staff, but it turned out that it would be a better fit. So that's kind of the long-winded of 2013 till now of where that growth has happened. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I went everywhere from a part-time computer shop business owner all the way to full-time, now going on 9 years, managing employees, and still trying to figure it all out as I go through 2022.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's a great story, and I know the story hasn't ended yet, but it's really a great story of how we all start in this business and where we're trying to get to, and the possibilities out there. I know one of the challenges has to be, as I've been experiencing this now, is like you said, and it touched on something for me, is when you hire, you have to then know how to manage.
Yes.
And I can imagine, what kind of challenge was that for you initially?
So it's fun. It's interesting you say that, right? Because I think a lot of us, especially in the industry, who are solo guys, are trying to figure out how to get help, right? And there's all types of ways to do it. You can outsource it, which is what we did for a little bit. You can try and hire it internally. I personally believe there's no wrong answer on either of those sides. Is you can make it work for your demographic, what you need for. Some are better than others. Unfortunately, we just had a slew of white label help desks that we were using, that one of them just went belly up overnight, which I was very adamant on the previous show talked about when that happened back then. And then there were some that just didn't meet our quotas, or they just were not in our budget in our resources. It was just too expensive for us to enroll in their white label help desk. Then there were those that we try to outsource, and then those outsources were outside of our resources as well. So we decided to really figure out how to do it internally. But exactly how you said, when you're in that mindset of trying to hire, the biggest issue is when you think you need help, your assumption, or at least initially, if you don't think about it full on course, is when you hire the help, they're going to relieve you of that role or those duties that you're trying to do, right? Which is true, but that's going to be in time. You actually are going to be doing double the work for probably the next 3 to 6 months, and then you will get that relief. So I think that's a misconception that a lot of people think that once this person gets hired, they're going to run and take care of it. Unfortunately, because you as the solo business owner, you probably don't have your documentation down. You probably don't have all the secrets shared as far as the passwords and such. And quite frankly, the phrase that we use is that you're the one person that knows where the bodies are buried. So you have to figure out and explain to them how certain things are, and caveats and visits and people and quirks and things of that nature, so that they, really figure out how to do something, right? So that's what I had to learn really well. And then the biggest pieces, and this is a cliche thing that everyone says, but who talks about it, but one of the biggest pieces is that you have to hire slow and fire fast. I mean, that's a mistake that we don't make, because we hope that that person is going to change, and we hope that that person is going to figure it out. But I had a really good talk when, for example, when hiring a salesperson, I had a conversation with Tom Bull and just understanding on, how do I hire a salesperson or a business development rep? How do I go ahead and make sure that they're going to work well? And how do I make sure? And he straight out told me, he was like, look, you're going to have bad hires. I mean, you're probably going to, you may get lucky and find one good one, and you get a great one, but you just got to get a body, and you got to make sure you work. And if they don't work, get rid of them and go from there. But you're going to lose money. And you can't look at it as losing money, as more as an investment of having to benefit and better your business. So that was a very big thing for me to take away. And he was right. I lost 6 months worth of salary on the one rep that I hired because it just didn't pan out. But it also was an education for me, understanding that maybe I shouldn't have to do it that way. And that's where I kind of rolled my duties from, instead of me taking on the service delivery, let me go ahead and delegate the service delivery and let me focus on the sales, because I'm better at sales than I am at keeping up with the service delivery piece of it all. Mm-hmm. So that's how we've kind of worked and realigned on some things as well. But yeah, hiring employees and then having to manage them is a whole another animal itself. So if you think you hate dealing with people, imagine dealing with people that's in your own internal company trying to figure out, and you work with every day. And if they do something you don't like, you actually also have to manage yourself, because if they're not doing something to how you like, the question is, did you explain it to them how you want it done the way you wanted to do, or did you leave it for them to decide how to do it on their own, hoping that they're going to do it in the way you like? So say that 3 times fast. So that's kind of what I would say about managing employees. And, it's not for the faint of heart. And, again, there's so many different ways to get help for your business. This was the route that we decided to take.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I know as business owners, we all strive to get to that next level. And what we have to realize is that comes with a learning curve as well. Like you just said, because it's easy to when you're doing it yourself, everything, and you're used to things being done your way. And then once you have to bring someone in for it, if they're not doing it your way, or you're not able to teach them your way, it gets real frustrating. So, it's a lesson for all of us who are striving to have employees, or even it works. I've never hired third party. Mm-hmm. Everyone that I have has worked for me, but I would imagine that it's the same way third party. It's just basically knowing what you want, being able to say this is where I want to be, and not accept anything else.
Right.
And also, I think too, there's a level of trust you got to have, because you give up a lot, and that's hard. It's really hard in the beginning.
Well, I mean, there's so many things to that, right? It's like, are you even doing it the right way, right? Like, have you been doing it, I wouldn't say the right way, but is there a different way that could be more efficient than how you've been doing it so far, right? There's one. 2, yeah, it's scary. You got to trust people with, like, your finances now. You got to, they're going to be able to work with the accountant to make sure that everything is good. Everything's being looked at a tooth and comb. Now there's data, sensitive data that's being exposed from your clients. And, that's a big risk that you have. And now you have to worry about security and how do you protect the surface area, because now you went from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and 2 to 5. And, how are you making sure that they're doing their due diligence and stuff like that. So there's so many things that you have to really worry about as you kind of grow in that avenue, especially with a trusting factor. But it's really up to you on determining on if you have a good call for or a good feel for people who, just in general, like, do you have a good sense of who you're talking to, and you could build a rapport, and this is someone that you can work with. I do believe we all have that at least some type of feeling or sense or an instinct for that. And then it's all about really trying to figure out what you want to do and figure out that piece of, okay, don't be afraid to say no. Don't be in a rush where you need a body and you're just going to stick and win there. I will also say that the interview process sucks too, because you may get someone that's qualified, but then when you put them in a day-to-day operation situation, it comes to find out that they're not what they cracked up to be on their interview, and what they said on their resume, So those are things you got to work out, where you have an assumption that things are going to work out, and sometimes it isn't. And there's nothing wrong with staying small too. Like, again, it's hire slow, fire fast, and that's the best model you can take when you're trying to go that route. Same thing with vendors.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good information. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We talked about now the management of the people in your company. Let's talk about the management of your business and the tools,
Okay.
and the favorite subject everyone has, what's in your stack. But if you don't have to divulge what you don't want, but what kind of tools are you using, or you find that some of your favorites?
Sure. I think that well, everyone should know by now that I'm a synchro guy. So it's like my PSA and RMM are fully integrated in synchro. So I've been with them since 2015 when they were a repair shopper, migrated everything over to synchro for that system set. And then really our stack has really been simplified. Me and John Dubinsky spent all of June and July to really figure out how do we adhere to the NIST cybersecurity framework and the CIS 18. And for those that don't know, those are both compliance and security frameworks that if you need a baseline to figure out how to offer services, that's kind of going to be your best starting point. But so we ran through this whole thing. It was like 3 months. I mean, it was just a headache on trying to nail down standardization and processes and documentation and vendors. And then I go to the Acronis Cyber Summit and just was wowed away with not only their technology, but their business. It just reminded me of a culture like Synchro. So, and I wanted to do business with them. So I ended up just saying, well, it checks all the boxes. Let me switch everything over. So now, so right now we're in a full Acronis shop when it comes to everything from AV, backup, the whole shebang. We're a huge Acronis shop for a lot of our stuff there. And then we have Mail Protect for our spam filtering situation. And then there's a couple other tools that we're using as well here and there, and backup for like quality control and things like that and security. But that's essentially really the majority of it. And, there is something to say about the one agent. I think a lot of us were, for me, when I hear one agent for a software, I think bloat. And I feel like that's a huge thing to bring on a computer and then enable what you want. So, and I had this issue with another AV provider that is very familiar and popular in the industry. So I'm not going to mention her name in case they sponsor TechCon. But the point is what yeah, show me the money. But no, I kid. Where it says in that agent, I had issues where it was such a huge file in the directory, and it was like, why? I only have AV and this on. Why is the whole thing there? And their explanation was, well, it's because if you turn it on, then we can easily just flip it on. So it just didn't seem right to me, but I guess that's just how it was architecture. And where Acronis has that same setup, I don't feel that same issue. I haven't had any complaints of slowness. Haven't any complaints for that, and they have an amazing incentive deals and partnership collateral and marketing and sales that I just, and again, it was just really seeing the people there and how much they want to help. And shout out to Amy for Amy Luby for really introducing me to kind of the ecosystem and that culture there. I was just thrown away. Like, I mean, it's a completely different environment to like some of the other vendors that people are really diehard for. It just reminded me of the togetherness of like how I like to work with Synchro. And it just was one of those where I made a decision professionally and just on a professional relationship wise to work with them. And that's when I decided to move to that route. But yeah, that's what we're using right now.
Sounds good. I know you and I had plenty of late night conversations about different products, throughout the time. And
Well, it's
I
hard,
remember
right?
yeah, it really is. For all of us, it's just coming to that conclusion of what we're going to use, what works, what we're comfortable with. And it seemed like every week we were trying to figure out, not necessarily switching, but just trying to figure out if something may help us or serve us better. And it's one of those things where you keep going until you find what's comfortable for you. I think and you and I've talked about, there's no one right solution, but it is the right solution for you.
Well, it's a scary fucking thing, right? Like, I mean, trying to really figure out. No, and I dropped the F-bomb, and I'm known for that before in the show. And I got hit with it, but this is my show, so F it. But no, but I mean, I say that because I mean it's a serious thing, right? Like, I think a lot of us that care, and part of this, and I really think part of this community is that I think a lot of us here are doing probably 70 to 80% more than what other IT professionals are doing in their business, and I'm talking about huge MSPs that probably are just checking boxes and not really preaching what they're doing, right? But it's a scary thing. Like, you don't want to be in the news, you don't want to be
Right.
sued, and you don't want to cause your client to go out of business because you screwed up, right? I mean, these are things that keep us up at night. And this is not the cliche, like what keeps you up at night and figure out what's going on. No, I mean, this is a legitimate thing. Like, you and I have spent many months, many years talking about, hey, did we take this into consideration?
Right.
Hey, after this latest situation that occurred, this breach, this hack, this whatever, are we confident to say that we're offering the proper solution? And it's a thing that makes you like, I'm sure there's probably a good amount of people listening to this right now that has said, I'm going to get to X tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes Wednesday, and tomorrow becomes Thursday. And it could be maybe backing up a server that is dying and you need to replace it. And you're like, oh, well, it's outdated. I'll get it backed up tomorrow. It's going to be on my list eventually. Or I'll get that patch management, whatever. And then you get hit with a ransomware attack or the server dies. And then it's like, because, I mean, we all go through that. We all go through that. And it's one of those where it's like, we just have so much going on that we hope that we have to try and figure it out. And that's where the standardization and the help goes from there. And that's really why we should be leveraging one another as well, and not really critiquing, like I see in a lot of the IT industry and a lot of these peer groups and Facebook groups where it's like, really, why are you doing that? And you're an idiot for doing that. Marvin made a great point on the last episode that he had, Marvin B from the IT Business Podcast, is why is everybody getting upset because someone is doing something a certain way and it's working and it's actually protecting? Why are you all bent out of shape about it? Like, that's what everyone wants to do. They want to be right. They want to be the subject matter expert and figure out what they want to do. And it's such BS where it's like, dude, we just want to, or do that. We really want to figure out how to do right by our customer and by our client. And that's really what the biggest piece of is. And some of us are learning to get there. There are some people that want to learn. And that's what is the big piece of it. Because as Chris Carruthers has said back in the past, if you're not learning, you're not living. So, and this just, where it is, you might as well just quit at that time. So, but yeah, that's my tirade on really just trying to figure out, like, this tech stack question comes up all the time. It's because the industry is evolving, and we have to evolve with it too. And it's a question that people may hate to hear, but it's really an important one to understand, that someone hopefully is not using Spybot still after 20 years, that they can realize that there is something else that's probably a little bit more. Yep, search and destroy. That really is helping out a little bit more. And again, to those who use Spybot, and if Spybot has come out with a new version, that is my ignorance, and I apologize. I'm just using what I know right now. That's where I come from there.
Right, but the point's well taken. Is like, we have to evolve with the times, and if we're going to protect our clients and call ourselves a legitimate business, we're going to have to learn. We have to expand. And that sometimes means we're going to have to step away from what we're used to if there's a better solution. But again, I say that like as someone who's tried a bunch of solutions. I finally set on the stack that I'm happy with, that I've taken the time to understand. And if things change and they don't serve the needs I have, it'll be you and I will be on the phone again late at night talking about it. But or
Yep.
we'll be reaching out in the Facebook group just to see what everyone is doing. But it's good that we have a community like that we can bounce ideas, bounce situations off like that, because none of us know everything, and sometimes I've seen questions asked and a response comes and say, I've never heard of that before. So then you're Googling or
Right.
trying to pick this up, pick something up. So it's an ever evolving situation here. I mean, you talked about your servers and hardware. What do you use for? Who do you use for hardware vendors and like distributors?
So it's funny you should say that. Because during our kind of search and standardization, we were hit really bad with supply chain to the point where we were a full Lenovo reseller for over 10 years. And I stood by them, their ThinkPad line products. I still stand by them to this point. Solid machines work great. But then they came out with the ThinkBook lines, and those were great for a point. But then when it came 2020, and some of them, unfortunately, supply issues where either they were manufactured faulty or some issues just didn't turn on, or maybe even like damage when it arrived. I mean, it would take a couple months to get this going, to get parts replacement for it, get a tech to come out there, because we would purchase the extended warranty, down to the point where like they would just ship us new laptops because they didn't have the parts ready. So they had to give something else that was comparable to it. And then that took a month and then two to try and figure out. But I think what was really annoying to me at that point was just the communication wasn't going back and forth. So it was getting very frustrating. Our clients were frustrated with us. So we had to make a move. So we then decided to start moving toward Dell. So we started reselling Dell, really more on the refurbished line, the DellRefurbish.com. And that's kind of where we've been providing a lot of our clients, just more of an economic versus buying a consumer grade laptop and making it a bigger thing from there. So we did that for a while, but had to sit down with Lenovo, had a really good conversation with them on what they're trying to do on their reselling and their products. We just have made a decision that basically the reason why we went with ThinkBooks previously was because we were told ThinkBooks work the same way as the ThinkPads. They just are made with less costing material and they look nicer. So we're like, oh, have to, little less in cost, same great product. Let's do it. Didn't work that way. So we've decided that we're just going to focus on ThinkPads, although they're quite a bit more. That's just going to be what we're going to suggest to our clients moving forward if they want new laptops. If not, then we'll provide them the refurbished opportunity if they want to go that route as well, just to kind of keep things going and do a better refresh than keeping their 10 to 12-year-old systems at some of these manufacturing facilities that we have. But yeah, so we Lenovo, we're back and forth between Lenovo and Dell. We probably are going to go back to Lenovo here, depending if everything works well. Distributors, I was a huge supporter and champion of Cynix. They sometimes will have an even better program and pricing than getting it directly from Lenovo themselves and on their partner program. So it was great working with them, and they're still great. We still have kept our same rep and so forth. They since have merged with Tech Data, so they're now known as TD Cynix. I'm not a fan of Tech Data support, just because it feels more robotic, more forms, click here and wherever, where I have a personal and a professional relationship with my rep over at Cynix. So we'll see how it all kind of, because it's fairly new on this merger. So that's who we use for our new distribution. We also leverage a distributor that's local here called PC Nation. PCNation.com, and they have everything. They have Lenovo, Dell, HP, servers, you name it. And they're in Northfield, so they're about maybe 30 to 45 minutes from where I live now. And I've actually been sourcing a lot of my Dells and Lenovo's from them because they have the supply versus and that's what my issue was with Tech Data. Now I remember. My issue with Tech Data, and I hope you're listening, Tech Data, because this is BS, is because what would end up happening is you would purchase the product that said it was in stock, right? You spoke with their reps and whatever, you placed the order in there, but then you look at the next day to see like, all right, did it ship? And then it says back ordered because they went ahead and they probably had some bigger order from a bigger purchasing champion of theirs, and they reallocated the units over to them. And so that's BS. So like now I'm on back order. Now I got to wait. We have no ETA when that's going to come out, and then I've even heard stories where there's some people that said that they were charged new pricing because they may have increased in the 3 months that they have purchased it initially. And now Tech Data doesn't want to lose out on the money, which I understand that part because they're selling it at that time, but don't accept the order if you think that it's on back order and you go from there. So that's my piece. I just think that that's foul. And that's why I don't work with Tech Data as much anymore, because they'll say things are in stock, we'll purchase it, and then all of a sudden magically it's back ordered the next day. So, and I think it's system issues or whatever the case may be, but that's why I like dealing with Cynics or PC Nation specifically. They've been done right by me so far.
Yeah, I've heard that story in more than one circle, and it's not a good way to keep friends.
That's that's kind of where I'm at there. And again, super open to have them on the show on a Resource Thursday and talk about some of that stuff and what they're trying to do. Would love to have them on, but that's where I'm at is with my MSP. Right now, I'm not Paco Lebron, host of MSP Unplugged. This is Paco Lebron, ProdigyTeks MSP, and that's my shtick and my deal for that. But so we use them, Pax8. We're a huge Pax8 partner for all of our software licensing, Microsoft, etc. They've been super great. I know they've been growing very much in the recent year or two. So we've kind of had a revolving door of reps, but if you ever have a problem, you always talk to Ken Patterson over there. He's a channel champion, channel chief channel of community. I apologize. He's the chief community guy. You have a problem, you talk to him, he'll set it all straight. So I've always had great experience with Ken, and Ken's a good friend, so he takes care of me.
Hey, at the end of every show, this is for everyone out there. We always say, if you got any questions, or if you want to reach out to someone, I'll give my information, and whoever the guest is will give their information. But who has a wealth of knowledge that we need to tap is Paco, because he knows everybody, and everybody knows him. So you can talk to a vendor, and they'll somehow they'll say, "How you hear about it?" I say, "I got a friend, who told me about you guys." Who's that? Paco. I know Paco. So everybody knows Paco. So I encourage everybody. Now I'm about to get your email blown up, but send them a message.
Info at MSPUnplugged.com. But no, yeah, I'm an open book for anybody.
Right, but that's to get some knowledge of what's going around, because Paco is well dialed in. We're gonna start a little bit, you getting towards the end here. So what I want to do is, we've talked about the business side of, of growing and your hiring and you some of the tools you use. But one of the greatest lessons we all get is your experiences, your growing pains, your successes. So I'm going to ask you two questions. I'll do them one at a time. But the first one is, going along as your growth, what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes you made, or something you would change if you were starting all over again?
It's funny. I ask this question all the time, and you would think I would know the answer. I think if there was one thing I would change, is two things. Actually, I'm gonna do two things. One, take a sales class sooner, because I'm not a salesperson. I was an engineer that loved tech and then became a business owner, had to get out of the mindset of being a tech who owns a company to a business owner that does tech, and then had to sell. So I enrolled with who's a good friend now after so many years, which is Victor Antonio. He runs a Sales Velocity Academy, has a ton of free YouTube videos if you don't want to join this program. He does do consulting as well. I did a big master class with him back in like 2017. That was like 12, it was called the Sales Mastery Intensive. It was 12 hours, 12 modules with only 12 people. And that was probably one of the biggest like shifts in mentality for my sales process. It's especially when it came to upselling. Like a lot of my success today has been upselling my current clients on what's been needed and what's required. And that's been a huge proponent of our growth, along with obviously acquiring new business. And the other piece I think is, you know, you just have to jump when you need to jump. Like I think a lot of us try to, who are doing this part-time or don't know if we can, pan out to it. You're not going to know until you're pushed, and you rather jump so you can kind of catch some of the rocks versus when you're pushed, you got to eat all the rocks. So off the cliff. So, you just don't know where you're going to land, and you just got to try. I mean, it's going to be uncomfortable. That's just what it is. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck. I went through probably good 2 years from 2017 to the end of 2018. And the funny part was 2017 was not that bad a year until the end of the year, because I had the severance from my old job. I had unemployment. I had, I was moonlighting, working at another a national computer repair shop that did field work. So I was good monetary wise, but the moment that the money started drying up, that's when things started to get serious for me. And then I was in survival mode. And that's when you really start to realize and figure things out. And it wasn't until things were really bad in 2018. And this time I was sued for a commercial loan I took out with Cabbage at the time that didn't make the payments on time for / I had switched accounts, never told them. And those people, I want to say a different word, but decided to come after me at that route. So I had to settle with them. And that was a big monetary undertaking. Signed a bad lease on a car that I was paying for practically interest for so long. I mean, there was a lot of bad decisions I made previously while working the W-2. And I was like, I got it over. And then this kind of caught up with me, and being a single dad supporting my daughter. These are all contributing factors that monetarily just was very stressful. I just started my relationship with my fiance. So, surprised she stuck around, because like if she would have, if she was with a entrepreneur at the time, she would have been, I'm out, bye. But she stuck through it. Right. And so what I will say is that although with difficult time, I think what my thing is just jump sooner, because I think I would have been a lot happier if I would have left the 3 years prior to jumping at that pharmaceutical consulting firm, did this and try and figured it out. I think I would have been a lot further than where I am today. But that's what I would say. If you're going to start. And also I would get your sales game up in some way, shape, or form.
Sounds good. It's I'll say it again. I think all of us in the community, we appreciate your honesty, your forthcoming about the challenges you faced, because a lot of us it's hard to talk about mistakes we've made or things we've done wrong, or the path we've gone along, because no one likes to look quote unquote look
Right.
bad. But I think, and I personally appreciate it. I appreciate the honesty, because it lets me know, hey, I'm not in this boat alone. There's
Right.
somebody who I respect has been through problems and has shown me how to grow, and that growth is possible. So I think I'll speak for the community when I say we appreciate it. We appreciate you and all the things you've been doing for the MSP community. Again, I'm gonna let you tell people where they can find you, but I'm going to encourage everyone to try to find you and ask some questions, and tap into the knowledge you have. Even though I want to be selfish, because I'll call you anytime of the day to ask questions.
Right. You got my cell phone number. So no, yeah. I mean, as everyone knows, I'm an open book, and I'm happy to help everyone as I can. The best ways to get a hold of me is really LinkedIn or via email, whether that's paco@mspunplugged.com or info@mspunplugged.com. Really, those are the best avenues to get a hold of me. I try to get on Facebook as much as I can, but as you all know, for some of those that have messaged me on Facebook, I get back to you almost days, weeks later, because I'm just not in Messenger like that. And usually I try to keep the personal and business kind of separate, and only those that I actually have an actual relationship with that I consider friends will be that I have as my Facebook friends. But now that obviously I'm managing and helping with Rick on managing the Facebook group, I have to figure out what your Facebook emails are to get you added to the group, right? And that's kind of something we're talking about. I'm making that more efficient for you all. But yeah, if you want to talk to me, I think the biggest, again, LinkedIn is really the best because I'm always on there. Or just shoot us an email. We live in email via info or at Paco at MSP Unplugged is the best way to find me, or our private Facebook online community group as well.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. I'm going to tie this up first with with our upcoming TechCon Unplugged. As you hear me say every time we're on, we are working very hard to make this the best TechCon Unplugged we've had. So we are very much looking forward to it, but we are very much looking forward to getting input from you all. So if you have any questions, concerns, suggestions, please reach out to us. Info at mspunplugged.com. You can catch me, Rick, at mspunplugged.com. Either way, we welcome your feedback. So we want to know what we can do to make this a better event coming up for all of us. Now, so I'd like everyone to come join us every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Time and Thursday 9 a.m. Central Time. I'm in Eastern Time, so I have to always remember that part. You can watch the video on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Make sure to like and subscribe to hit that notification button so that you never miss an episode. We're also on your favorite podcatcher, so you can catch us there, or we're on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So the podcasts come out. We try to get them out at least a week after. So this one should be hitting, if all goes well, at least by next Tuesday this time. Anyway, all, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week, and have a great day.